The grand halls of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity. Beings from 1,000 worlds mingled, their varied forms a testament to the diversity of life in the cosmos. Tall, willowy creatures with iridescent skin stood next to stocky, multi-limbed entities. Floating gas bags drifted above, while silicon-based life forms clicked and clattered below. At the center of it all stood the imposing council chambers. Here, the fate of galaxies was decided, alliances forged, and the course of civilizations altered. Today, however, the council faced something new: the arrival of humanity's first diplomatic mission. Ambassador Sarah Chen straightened her crisp blue uniform, her eyes scanning the alien throng. Beside her, Admiral James Hawthorne's weathered face remained impassive, though his fingers twitched near the ceremonial saber at his hip. "Steady, Jim," Sarah murmured. "Remember, we're here to make friends." The Admiral grunted. "Friends don't always stay friends out here in the black, Sarah. Keep your guard up." As they approached the council chambers, a ripple of whispers and poorly concealed laughter spread through the crowd. Aliens pointed, some with appendages the humans couldn't even name, and chattered in a cacophony of languages. "Look at them," a tall, avian being croaked. "So small and soft. How do they ever make it off their rock?" A gelatinous blob pulsed with amusement. "I heard they still use chemical propulsion for their ships." Quaint, isn't it? Sarah felt her cheeks burn, but kept her diplomatic smile firmly in place. Admiral Hawthorne's scowl, however, deepened with each comment. The massive doors of the council chamber swung open, revealing a circular room ringed with tiered seating. At its center stood a holographic projection of the Milky Way, slowly rotating in all its stellar glory. 7 beings, each representing one of the major galactic powers, sat in ornate chairs on a raised dais. Their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, fixed upon the human delegation as they entered. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The speaker, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field, floated forward. "I am High Counselor Sixlith. We have long awaited this day." Sarah stepped forward, bowing deeply. "High Counselor, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, we come in peace and friendship, eager to join the galactic community." A ripple of laughter echoed through the chamber. Sixlith's energy form flickered in what might have been amusement. "Peace and friendship are noble goals, Ambassador," the High Counselor said. "But tell us, what does humanity bring to our table? What wonders has your species achieved that might impress beings who have sailed the cosmic seas for eons?" Before Sarah could respond, a hulking reptilian creature leaned forward, its scales glinting in the starlight from the holographic display. "Yes, do tell us of Earth's mighty war fleets," it rumbled, voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm sure they're a match for the hive mind of Epsilon Eridani, or the quantum armada of the Andromeda Alliance." Admiral Hawthorne bristled, but Sarah laid a calming hand on his arm. "Counselors," she said, her voice steady, "humanity may be young compared to your ancient civilizations, but we have much to offer. Our adaptability, our creativity." "Creativity," interrupted a being composed entirely of swirling gases. "Oh yes, we've heard tales of your creativity. Isn't it true that your people once believed the stars were holes poked in the fabric of night?" More laughter filled the chamber. Sarah felt her carefully prepared speech crumbling in the face of this mockery. "Perhaps," drawled a crystalline entity, its facets sparkling, "the humans could entertain us with tales of their quaint space adventures. I understand they once thought landing on their own moon was an achievement to celebrate." The council chamber erupted in raucous laughter. Even the normally stoic Ambassador Chen felt her composure slipping. Admiral Hawthorne's face had turned a dangerous shade of red. High Counselor Sixlith raised an appendage, quieting the room. Now, let's not be too harsh on our new friends." The pause before friends was noticeable. "I'm sure Earth has some redeeming qualities. Perhaps they could serve as a nature preserve. I hear their world has charming indigenous life forms." Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but the Admiral beat her to it. "Now see here," he growled, stepping forward. "Humanity may be new to your galactic stage, but we're not some backwater savages to be mocked and dismissed." The council members regarded Hawthorne with a mixture of amusement and disdain. The reptilian creature leaned forward, its forked tongue flicking out. "Oh, and what exactly will you do about it, little human? Wave your primitive weapons at us. We, who have the power to snuff out suns." As tensions in the chamber rose, a distant alarm began to sound. The holographic display of the galaxy flickered, then zoomed in on a sector near the outer rim. A mass of red dots was moving, swarming towards the heart of council space. The laughter died away, replaced by murmurs of concern. High Counselor Zixlith's energy form pulsed rapidly. "Impossible," it whispered. "The swarm, they're early. Our predictions were wrong," finished the reptilian counselor, all trace of mockery gone from its voice. "The devourers of worlds are coming, and we are not prepared." As panic began to spread through the chamber, Sarah and Admiral Hawthorne exchanged a significant look. Perhaps now, in this moment of crisis, humanity would have its chance to prove its worth to the Galactic Council. But that, as they say, is a story for another time. Chaos erupted in the Galactic Council chamber. Alien diplomats scrambled for exits, their earlier mockery forgotten in the face of impending doom. The swarm, a relentless force that consumed entire worlds, was approaching far sooner than anyone had predicted. Admiral James Hawthorne stood firm amidst the panic, his years of military service evident in his calm demeanor. "Ambassador Chen," he said, turning to his colleague, "I believe it's time to show these folks what humanity can do." Sarah nodded, her earlier embarrassment replaced by steely determination. She raised her voice above the din. "Honorable council members, Earth stands ready to assist in this crisis." High Counselor Zixlith's energy form flickered erratically, a sign of distress. "Assist? How could your primitive species possibly help against the swarm?" The reptilian counselor hissed in agreement. "Your offer is appreciated, humans, but this is beyond your capabilities. The swarm will be here within days, and our combined fleets are scattered across the galaxy." Admiral Hawthorne allowed himself a small smile. "With all due respect, counselors, you don't know what we're capable of. Ambassador Chen, if you would." Sarah stepped forward, pulling out a small device. With a flick of her wrist, a holographic display sprang to life, showing a massive warship unlike anything the Council had ever seen. "This," Sarah announced, "is the EDS Humanity's Hope, our first and only Dreadnought-class starship." The Council chamber fell silent, all eyes fixed on the rotating image of the ship. Its sleek design belied its enormous size, weapon ports dotting its hull like stars in the night sky. "Impossible," breathed the crystalline entity. "Your people couldn't have built this in secret. Our intelligence networks would have known." Admiral Hawthorne chuckled. "You were so busy laughing at our primitive technology that you never bothered to look closer. The Humanity's Hope has been our best-kept secret for a decade." High Counselor Zixlith's form stabilized slightly. "Even if this ship exists, how could one vessel stand against the swarm? Our reports indicate thousands of enemy ships approaching." "The Humanity's Hope isn't just a warship," Sarah explained. "It's a mobile fortress, capable of coordinating an entire fleet. More importantly, it carries our secret weapon against the swarm." The avian being who had mocked them earlier ruffled its feathers nervously. "Secret weapon? What sort of weapon could possibly?" Its words trailed off as Admiral Hawthorne activated his own holographic display. The image showed a swirling vortex of energy contained within a spherical device. "We call it the Nexus Disruptor," Hawthorne said. "It generates a field that severs the psychic link between swarm units. Without that link, they become disorganized, easy prey for our weapons." Murmurs of astonishment rippled through the council chamber. The reptilian counselor leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "If you possess such technology, why reveal it now? Why not use it to dominate us?" Sarah's expression softened, because that's not who we are. Humanity seeks cooperation, not domination. We hid our advancements not out of malice, but caution. We needed to understand the galactic political landscape before revealing our true capabilities. High Counselor Zixlith floated closer, its energy form pulsing with a mix of emotions. You offer this aid freely, even after our less than warm welcome. We do. Admiral Hawthorne confirmed. Earth stands with the Galactic Council against this threat. All we ask in return is a seat at the table. As equals. The council members exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, Zixlith spoke. Very well. Humanity has shown wisdom and restraint beyond our expectations. We accept your help, and we offer our apologies for our earlier behavior. Sarah smiled diplomatically. Apology accepted, High Counselor. Now, shall we plan our defense? As if on cue, alarms blared once more. The holographic galaxy map zoomed in on the approaching swarm fleet. They were moving faster than anyone had anticipated. By the cosmic winds, gasped the gaseous counselor. They'll be upon us within hours. Admiral Hawthorne's face set in grim determination. Then we have no time to lose. Ambassador Chen, contact the Humanity's Hope. Tell Captain Rodriguez to execute Operation Firewall. Sarah nodded, already activating her communicator. The council chamber buzzed with renewed energy as the various species began coordinating their scattered forces. As the first reports of swarm ships entering the system came in, Admiral Hawthorne allowed himself a small, confident smile. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. The swarm might be coming, but they were in for one hell of a surprise. The battle for the fate of the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready to prove its worth. The Galactic Council's command center was a hive of frantic activity. Alien technicians rushed between holographic displays, their tentacles, claws, and various appendages flying over control panels. In the center of it all stood Admiral James Hawthorne and Ambassador Sarah Chen, their calm presence a stark contrast to the panic around them. EDS Humanity's Hope reporting in, Sarah announced, her hand pressed to her earpiece. Captain Rodriguez confirms they're in position at the edge of the system. High Counselor Zixlith's energy form pulsed with nervous energy. One ship against thousands. I hope your confidence is not misplaced, humans. Admiral Hawthorne's eyes never left the main display, which showed the approaching swarm fleet as a massive red cloud. Trust us, Counselor. We've been preparing for this day for years. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the command center. The avian alien manning the sensor station squawked in alarm. Multiple swarm vessels entering the system. They're everywhere. The main display lit up with countless red dots, each representing a swarm ship. They moved with an eerie synchronization, like a school of predatory fish closing in on their prey. By the cosmic core, breathed the reptilian counselor. There must be tens of thousands of them. Sarah's voice cut through the growing despair. Humanity's hope is engaging. All allied ships, stand by to support. All eyes turned to the display. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a bright blue dot appeared at the edge of the system. The Humanity's Hope had revealed itself. What is it doing? Demanded the crystalline entity. It's just sitting there. Admiral Hawthorne allowed himself a small smile. Watch. Suddenly, the blue dot pulsed. A wave of energy, invisible to the naked eye, but clearly detectable on the Council's advanced sensors, spread out from the human ship at impossible speed. As it washed over the swarm fleet, something extraordinary happened. The perfectly synchronized movement of the swarm ships began to falter. Some slowed, others spun in circles, and many simply stopped dead in space. The Nexus Disruptor, Sarah explained to the stunned Council. It's working even better than we hoped. Zixlith's energy form brightened with sudden hope. Incredible, but surely they will adapt, regroup. They won't get the chance, Hawthorne interrupted. All Allied ships. This is Admiral Hawthorne. The enemy is in disarray. Attack pattern Omega. Show no mercy. The remaining dots on the display, representing the combined fleet of the Galactic Council, surged forward. They fell upon the confused swarm ships like wolves among sheep. Explosions blossomed across the display as ship after ship was destroyed. But the swarm was not defeated so easily. Even in their disorganized state, their sheer numbers made them a formidable foe. Alerts began to sound as Allied ships reported heavy damage. "We're taking losses," the avian sensor operator reported. "The swarm's adaptation is faster than predicted. The Nexus disruptor's effect is weakening." Sarah and James exchanged worried glances. This was the moment of truth. "Humanity's hope, execute Phase 2, Hawthorne ordered. On the display, the blue dot representing their Dreadnought began to move. It plunged into the heart of the swarm fleet, weapons blazing. Swarm ships fell by the dozens, then hundreds, unable to coordinate an effective defense against the technologically superior human vessel. "Impossible," whispered the gaseous counselor. "How can one ship?" "It's not just weapons," Sarah explained, her voice filled with pride. "The Humanity's Hope is equipped with regenerative shielding and adaptive point defense systems. Every attack the swarm makes only makes our ship stronger." As they watched, the tide of battle began to turn. Inspired by the Humanity's Hope's fearless charge, the Allied fleet rallied. The swarm, still reeling from the effects of the Nexus disruptor and unable to adapt to the human ship's defenses, began to retreat. Hours passed like minutes. The command center was silent save for the beeping of consoles and the occasional update from the fleet. Finally, the avian sensor operator let out a triumphant trill. "The last swarm ship has been destroyed or driven from the system. We've won." Cheers erupted throughout the command center. Council members embraced each other, their earlier rivalries forgotten in the joy of victory. Admiral Hawthorne allowed himself to relax slightly, though his eyes never left the display. "It's not over yet," he cautioned. "The swarm will be back, and next time, they'll be ready for us." High Counselor Zixlith floated over to the two humans, its energy form glowing brightly. "Perhaps," it said, "but next time, they will face not just humanity, but a united galaxy. We owe you a great debt, friends from Earth." As the celebration continued around them, Sarah and James shared a quiet smile. Humanity had proven its worth, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin. The days following the battle were a whirlwind of activity. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of humanity, now clamored for information about Earth's advanced technology. Admiral James Hawthorne and Ambassador Sarah Chen found themselves at the center of attention, fielding questions from curious and sometimes wary alien diplomats. In a grand chamber adorned with holographic star maps, the Council convened for an emergency session. High Counselor Zixlith's energy form pulsed with an air of formality as it addressed the gathered representatives. "Esteemed colleagues," Zixlith began, "we stand at a crossroads in galactic history. The threat of the swarm remains, but thanks to our human allies, we have hope. It is time to discuss humanity's place among us." The reptilian counselor, Seth, rose from his seat. His earlier disdain for humans had been replaced by a grudging respect. "The humans have proven their worth in battle, but can we trust them with the power they wield? The Humanity's Hope could easily become a threat to us all." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "Counselor Seth, I understand your concerns, but I assure you, Earth has no interest in galactic domination. We seek only peace and mutual prosperity." "Pretty words," hissed Seth, "but words alone are not enough. We need guarantees." Admiral Hawthorne joined Sarah at the podium. "Then let us offer more than words. We propose a joint command structure for the Humanity's Hope and any future ships of its class. Decisions regarding their deployment will be made by a council that includes representatives from Earth and the major galactic powers. This announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. The crystalline entity, Facet Prime, chimed in, its voice resonating like struck crystal. You would share control of your most powerful weapon. Why? Sarah smiled diplomatically. Because we understand that trust must be earned. We don't ask you to take our intentions on faith alone. We're willing to prove our commitment to galactic peace through action. High Counselor Zixlith's form brightened noticeably. A bold proposal, and a wise one. But there is another matter we must address. The technology behind the Nexus Disruptor and your advanced shielding, will you share it? A tense silence fell over the chamber. Every being present understood the implications of such technology spreading throughout the galaxy. It could shift the balance of power dramatically. Admiral Hawthorne cleared his throat. We're prepared to share some of our advancements, particularly those that can help defend against the swarm. However, certain technologies must remain under Earth's control, at least for now. We hope you understand that we must protect our own interests as well. The gaseous counselor, Nebula Vox, swirled agitatedly. This is unacceptable. You cannot dangle such power before us, and then snatch it away. Before the situation could escalate, an unexpected voice cut through the growing tension. It was Gurkcha, a representative from a race of silicon-based lifeforms known for their logical thinking. Colleagues, let us consider this rationally, Gurkcha's gravelly voice echoed. The humans have offered us more than we had mere days ago. They have proven their value as allies and their willingness to compromise. Is it not logical to accept their proposal and build trust over time? The chamber fell silent as the assembled diplomats considered Gurkcha's words. Slowly, heads nodded and appendages waved in agreement. High Counselor Zixlith's energy form pulsed with what seemed to be satisfaction. Well spoken, Representative Gurkcha. Let us put it to a vote. All in favor of accepting humanity as full members of the Galactic Council, with the proposed joint command structure for their advanced ships. One by one, the counselors signaled their assent. Even Seth, after a moment's hesitation, raised a clawed hand in agreement. The motion passes, Zixlith announced. Ambassador Chen, Admiral Hawthorne, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome humanity to our ranks. May this mark the beginning of a new era of cooperation and progress. Applause and various alien sounds of approval filled the chamber. Sarah and James exchanged relieved smiles. It was a momentous occasion, but both knew that the real work was just beginning. As the council session adjourned, the two human representatives found themselves surrounded by curious aliens eager to learn more about Earth culture and technology. Well, Sarah, James said quietly, we've got our foot in the door. Now comes the hard part, living up to their expectations and our own ideals. Sarah nodded, her eyes sparkling with determination. We're ready, Jim. Humanity has always risen to the challenge. This is just our biggest one yet. As they moved through the crowd, greeting their new allies, both Sarah and James knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and the adventure was only just beginning. 6 months had passed since humanity's dramatic entry into the Galactic Council. The EDS Humanity's Hope, once a closely guarded secret, now orbited a bustling space station at the heart of Council space. Its sleek hull gleamed in the light of unfamiliar stars, a symbol of Earth's new role in galactic affairs. On the station's observation deck, Admiral James Hawthorne stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing out at the spectacular view. Beside him, Ambassador Sarah Chen pored over a datapad, her brow furrowed in concentration. Another request for a tour of the Humanity's Hope. Sarah sighed, looking up at James. This time from the Zorgax Confederation. That's the third one this week. James chuckled softly. I suppose we should be flattered. 6 months ago, they wouldn't give us the time of day. Now they can't get enough of us. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Gurkcha, the silicon-based alien who had supported humanity's inclusion in the council. Its crystalline body clinked softly as it approached. "Admiral, Ambassador," Gurkcha greeted them, its voice a pleasant rumble. "I trust you are well. I have news from the Joint Command meeting." Sarah set down her datapad, giving Gurkcha her full attention. "Good news, I hope." The alien's facets shimmered, and what they had learned was its equivalent of a nod. "Indeed, the Council has approved the construction of 2 more ships of the Hope class. They will be built with a combination of human and alien technologies." James's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "That's faster than we expected. I thought there would be more resistance." "The recent swarm activity in the Andromeda Arm has accelerated the timeline," Gurkcha explained. "Many Council members now see the wisdom in expanding our defensive capabilities." As they discussed the implications of this development, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red warning lights flashed, casting an eerie glow over the observation deck. "What in the world?" Sarah exclaimed, already reaching for her communicator. Before she could activate it, a holographic projection sprang to life in the center of the room. It showed High Counselor Sixlith, its energy form flickering with urgency. "Emergency alert to all Council members," Sixlith's voice boomed. "We have received a distress call from the Epsilon Eridani system. A swarm fleet, larger than any we've encountered before, has entered the sector. They've adapted to the Nexus disruptor technology. Epsilon Eridani's defenses are failing." James and Sarah exchanged grim looks. Epsilon Eridani was home to over 5 billion sentient beings and was a crucial hub for interstellar trade. "The Humanity's Hope is the only ship in range with a chance of stopping them," Sixlith continued. "Admiral Hawthorne, we need you to launch immediately. Ambassador Chen, your presence is requested in the Emergency Council session." As the projection faded, James was already moving. "Gurkcha, I need you to coordinate with the station's traffic control. Clear us a path out of here." The silicon being clicked in affirmation. "Consider it done, Admiral. Good hunting." Sarah caught James's arm before he could leave. "Jim, be careful out there. We don't know what new tricks the swarm might have up their sleeve." He gave her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Sarah. We got a few surprises of our own. Hold down the fort here and try to keep the politicians from panicking." As James rushed off to the Humanity's Hope, Sarah made her way to the Council chambers. The corridors were abuzz with activity, aliens of all species hurrying to their posts or huddling in worried groups. In the Council chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Representatives from dozens of worlds argued loudly, their voices a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and rumbles. Sarah took her seat, noting the fear in many of the aliens' eyes. High Counselor Sixlith's form pulsed brightly, calling for order. "Silence, please. We must remain calm and united in the face of this threat." As the noise died down, Sarah stood. All eyes turned to her, some hopeful, others skeptical. "Members of the Council," she began, her voice steady. "I know many of you are afraid. The swarm is a terrible enemy, and they've found a way to counter our best defense. But humanity has faced long odds before, and we've always found a way to prevail." She paused, looking around the room. "Admiral Hawthorne and the crew of the Humanity's Hope are racing to Epsilon Eridani as we speak. They carry with them not just the hopes of Earth, but of all our worlds. We must have faith in them, and in each other." As Sarah continued her speech, rallying the Council to action, the Humanity's Hope streaked through hyperspace. In its command center, Admiral Hawthorne studied tactical displays, preparing for the battle to come. The fate of Epsilon Eridani, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested in human hands. The true test of humanity's place among the stars was about to begin. The EDS Humanity's Hope burst out of hyperspace on the fringes of the Epsilon Eridani system. The ship's sensors immediately lit up with warnings. The main view screen showed a terrifying sight. Thousands of swarm ships swarming around the system's planets like angry insects. Admiral James Hawthorne stood at the center of the bridge, his face grim but determined. "Status report," he barked. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the ship's sensors officer, responded quickly. Sir, we're detecting over 5,000 swarm ships. They've already breached the outer defenses and are closing in on the main inhabited worlds. What about our allies? James asked, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. The Epsilon Eridani defense fleet is engaging the swarm, but they're severely outnumbered, Rodriguez replied. They won't last long without our help. James nodded, his mind racing through possible strategies. All right, people, this is what we've trained for. Deploy the Nexus Disruptor. The crew sprang into action, their movements precise and practiced. The Humanity's Hope hummed with power as its most potent weapon charged up. Nexus Disruptor at full power, reported the weapons officer, ready to fire on your command. Sir. James took a deep breath. Fire. A pulse of invisible energy radiated out from the Humanity's Hope, washing over the swarm fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, to the crew's horror, the swarm ships continued their coordinated attack without missing a beat. It's not working, Rodriguez exclaimed. The swarm is still coordinating their movements. They must have found a way to shield themselves from the disruptor's effects. James gripped the arms of his command chair, his knuckles white. This was the scenario they had feared, but hoped would never come. The swarm had adapted, and humanity's trump card was no longer effective. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Epsilon Eridani Command Center. They're requesting immediate assistance. Their shields are failing. James stood up, his voice steady despite the dire situation. We're not out of tricks yet. Helm, take us into the heart of the swarm fleet. Weapons, prepare to deploy the Omega Protocol. A hush fell over the bridge. The Omega Protocol was a last resort weapon, developed in secret by Earth's best scientists. It had never been tested in actual combat. As the Humanity's Hope plunged into the thick of battle, swarm ships swarmed around it. The Dreadnought's advanced shields flared brilliantly, deflecting countless energy blasts and projectiles. Omega Protocol ready. Admiral, the weapons officer announced, her voice tense. James took one last look at the tactical display, watching as Allied ships fought desperately against the overwhelming swarm forces. It was now or never. Execute Omega Protocol, he ordered. The Humanity's Hope shuddered as a massive burst of energy erupted from its bow. The energy expanded rapidly, forming a shimmering translucent bubble that engulfed a large portion of the swarm fleet. Inside the bubble, space itself seemed to warp and twist. Swarm ships caught within its effect began to break apart, their very atoms being torn asunder by the altered laws of physics within the field. It's working. Rodriguez shouted, unable to contain his excitement. The Omega field is destabilizing the swarm ship's molecular structure. They're disintegrating. James allowed himself a small smile. Extend the field. Let's give our allies some breathing room. As the Omega field expanded, more and more swarm ships fell victim to its effects. The tide of battle began to turn. The remaining Epsilon Eridani defense ships, seeing an opportunity, pressed their attack with renewed vigor. Hours passed in a blur of tactical decisions and intense combat. Finally, Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. Sir, the last of the swarm ships have either been destroyed or are in full retreat. We've won. A cheer erupted from the crew, but James held up a hand for silence. We may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. The swarm will be back, and next time they'll be ready for the Omega Protocol too. As if on cue, the communications officer spoke up. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's Ambassador Chen. Sarah's face appeared on the main view screen, her expression a mix of relief and concern. Jim, thank goodness you're all right. The Council's in an uproar. The swarm attacked 3 other systems while you were engaged at Epsilon Eridani. They're using some kind of new, faster-than-light technology. We're barely keeping up with their movements. James's face hardened. The situation was worse than they had imagined. "We'll head back to Council space immediately, Sarah. Tell them we're going to need a bigger fleet." As the Humanity's Hope prepared to jump to hyperspace, James looked out at the stars. Humanity had won a crucial victory today, but the true test of their resolve and the fate of the galaxy still lay ahead. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was packed to capacity. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy had gathered for this crucial meeting. At the center stood Admiral James Hawthorne and Ambassador Sarah Chen, their faces etched with determination. High Counselor Zixlith's energy form pulsed erratically, a sign of the grave situation. "The floor recognizes the human delegation," it announced. "Admiral Hawthorne, please present your report." James stepped forward, his voice clear and commanding. "Counselors, allies, friends, the battle at Epsilon Eridani was a victory, but a costly one. The swarm has evolved beyond our expectations. They've adapted to the Nexus disruptor and developed faster-than-light technology that outpaces our own." Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. The reptilian counselor, Seth, hissed in frustration. "Then what hope do we have? Even your vaunted humanity's hope barely turned the tide." Sarah joined James at the podium. "That's why we're here today. We have a proposal, one that could change the course of this war." All eyes in the chamber focused on the two humans. Even the most skeptical aliens leaned forward, eager to hear what Earth had planned. James activated a holographic display, showing schematics for a massive space station. "We call it Project Unity, a mobile fortress capable of housing multiple Hope-class ships, coordinating fleet movements across the galaxy, and serving as a research hub to stay ahead of swarm adaptations." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some expressed awe at the ambitious project, while others voiced skepticism. Gurkcha, the silicon-based ally, spoke up. The resource requirements for such a project would be enormous. No single world could support it. Sarah nodded. "Exactly. That's why we're proposing this as a truly galactic effort. Every member of the Council would contribute resources, technology, personnel. This station would belong to all of us, a symbol of our united stand against the swarm." The crystalline entity, Facet Prime, chimed in. "And I suppose Earth would lead this project." "We would oversee the initial construction," James replied, "but the station's command would be shared. A joint council, with representatives from all major powers, would make strategic decisions." High Counselor Zixlith's form brightened. "An ambitious plan, indeed. But can it be ready in time? Our latest intelligence suggests the swarm is massing for a major offensive." "We've already begun preliminary work," Sarah explained. "With the full support of the Council, we believe Project Unity could be operational within one standard galactic year." The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the decision before them sank in. Then, unexpectedly, the gaseous counselor Nebula Vox spoke up. "Fellow counselors, not long ago, we mocked these humans. We dismissed their capabilities and scorned their offers of friendship. Yet when the swarm came, it was humanity that stood as our shield. Its gaseous form swirled passionately. I say we put our trust in them once more. I vote in favor of Project Unity." One by one, other counselors voiced their support. Even Seth, after a moment's hesitation, gave a grudging nod of approval. High Counselor Zixlith's energy form pulsed brightly. "Then it is decided. Project Unity is approved. May it be the dawn of a new era of cooperation and the beginning of the end for the swarm threat." As the council chamber erupted in cheers and applause, James and Sarah shared a quiet moment. "We did it, Jim," Sarah said, her eyes shining with emotion. "We've given the galaxy a fighting chance." James nodded, his expression a mix of relief and determination. "The real work starts now, Sarah. We've united the galaxy, but can we keep it together long enough to defeat the swarm?" As if in answer to his question, alarms suddenly blared throughout the chamber. A holographic display sprang to life, showing a massive swarm fleet emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. "Counselors," James called out, his voice cutting through the panic. "This is the moment we've prepared for. Every ship, every warrior, every world must stand together. The future of the galaxy depends on what we do here today." As the chamber mobilized for battle, the human delegation stood tall. Earth had proven its worth 100 times over, moving from mocked outsiders to the linchpin of galactic defense. Now, with Project Unity on the horizon and a united galaxy at their backs, humanity was ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw at them. The final battle was about to begin, and this time, the entire galaxy would fight as one.